Mr. President, Commissioners, good morning. It's 11:30.
All right, thank you. I'll admonish the commission to put toothpicks in their eyes if they need to from staying up all night last night watching election returns. Anyway, it's good to be here. Welcome. As we begin, I'd like to know if any of the commissioners have any questions or comments about the agenda.
Mr. President, if I could jump in, I apologize real quick. Again, based on my late note last night,
Yep.
If you could refer back to staff on the consent agenda, item number 3, date certain, 10 November. We did find a very minor issue. Again, it's minor, but we want to make sure it's complete before we bring it to you.
Okay, so whoever makes that motion, that's your assignment.
Hey, Mr. President,
Yes.
we had received an email from a constituent about moving consent agenda item number 6 to the regular agenda. And I see that
Yes,
it's
and
still...
I called that individual and had a conversation with him, and I have a couple of questions that'll probably satisfy that request.
Are you going to, could you share that with the rest of us?
Yep, right now.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
What Clancy's concerns were that these particular 2 new staff members were being selected perhaps at the expense of having our ADA inspectors brought up to the level of 2 that we need, because he knew we didn't have any. So I explained to him that we've only had one individual who starts on Monday.
What's on Monday?
And really nobody else that had any experience or anything that filled the bill. So we haven't been able to make any other offers. And that these particular positions were very different in terms of qualifications.
Right.
And then he asked if they were being paid the same as any other inspector, and I said I didn't know. So anyway, do we have a general level for inspectors starting at, or?
Mr. President, thank you for the question. Yes, first off, the district has been using all options to bring on ADA inspectors. As you said very accurately, the qualifications are very unique and very tough to fill. As a matter of fact, Commissioner Goldthorpe, you were at our all-staff meeting when I made a personal pitch to our entire team to include a presentation on the impact that ADA inspector will have on the community and the tremendous amount of self-gratification that an individual would receive by jumping into this area. We received
Bruce actually asked for anyone who might be interested to contact Sherry immediately, and crickets.
We've been very aggressive on our advertising across the board. Unfortunately, we've had no people putting their applications in. We have adjusted the salaries upward. I won't get into specifics right now, but it is well above what I'll call, I better be careful, a line inspector. They're all important and such. We still have not received any additional applications. Now, at the same token, the gentleman that we're bringing in on Monday is tremendous. He will hit the ground running. It's one of 2. We'll continue to push hard for the 3rd, and I would offer anybody that's on this call, or Mr. Anderson specifically, if you'd like to put your application in and help solve this issue, I'll personally review your application. I guarantee you'll probably get a good result. So if those folks are out there, please let me know and be part of the solution.
Okay, that's good to know.
I don't see Clancy on our list of folks that are on the Zoom.
Probably because you had that phone call. So just to clarify, and we've got an ADA inspector starting on Monday.
On
Perfect.
Monday, 8
Thank
o'clock.
you very much. Appreciate it.
So anywho, I don't think we need to move that over to the regular agenda.
Not now.
And Mr. President, I just want to say thank you. These fiber optic people have been moving fast, and we haven't been able to keep up with them. And as you know, the quality of their contractors has not been good, and the fact that they've had to redo and redo and redo, and that this is all pays for itself. The policy requires that the fees pay for them. So I'm glad we're moving on this, and hopefully in the next season, as they, warning people of Ada County, your streets are gonna be dug up by fiber optics folks, but we will be out there a little faster to inspect, and I think it's very important that they pay for the, inspectors to hit the standards, and that we don't have a repeat of what we had this year.
Mr. President, Commissioner Hanson, thank you for those very kind words. As you all know, as we presented to you, this is going to be a 10-year challenge for Ada County as Quest comes in, other agencies, and we're already looking out that far. So
I hear Google's coming in.
Google also.
Okay.
And so a lot on the docket, and we're going to do our best.
Yep, the feds say we have to let them in the right of way, but the feds did not prohibit us from charging them to inspect.
Right. And Director Wong,
We do
when
that.
we had that meeting with the individuals from TDS, we were talking about not just coming in and doing that initial work, but when they have made these changes to landscape in people's yards and left a mess, et cetera, I think we specifically made the point that we wanted to see those things corrected, especially before winter and before moving on. So I know we have one individual that keeps contacting us, so I'm not sure if her situation has been rectified, but that's another aspect of this whole thing that we need to keep our eyes on.
Mr. President, Commissioner May, thank you again. Great comment. As a matter of fact, as soon as that tellus came in, I was in contact with their leadership team, and you may have seen a response from their leadership team immediately back to us and the citizen working through this. There was a follow-up that said we've talked to the citizen and we've solved the issue. I haven't been out there yet, but we haven't received another tellus nor a phone call.
Probably a good sign.
So my hope is that that was all done. But yes, we're pursuing all very aggressively.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Any other questions, comments about the agenda? Then seeing none, we'll go ahead with our administrative report.
Mr. President, Commissioners, again, good morning. Thank you very much. In front of you, you have your monthly summary of impact fees. As you can see, they're allocated by city, by area, by residential, by commercial. Going forward, you'll get one of these a month to make sure you're up to speed on everything that's going on. Also in front of you is the Boise ACHC joint session agenda for tomorrow. And as you can see, those are the 4 items that you all in the city agreed or requested to. And we have the legislative open discussion there, which was suggested to be something similar to what you did and had with Meridian on sharing ideas early with your partners as you walk into the legislative session to see if those are things that everybody can agree to move forward on in collaboration as opposed to going one-off on that. So,
And Bruce, just to be clear, Alexis sent another request for something to be on it, and I hadn't told you, we can have an entire meeting on that subject.
Oh, totally. Absolutely.
So we probably will.
Okay.
and we're planning that.
Perfect. That
Yes.
sounds great.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
And Mr. President, knowing that we may have a challenge getting to number 3 and 4 in our discussion, I went ahead and just drafted up and handed out just an idea of redoing our traffic calming policies to basically say we would like the cities to prioritize, give us their priorities as to the areas that are most serious in their experience of speeding. The data they collect is really good and useful, and while I appreciate that people can collect signatures, that's not always the most serious, the ones who collect the signatures first from the cities or the law enforcement standpoint. So I think we should relook at that whole area and encourage the cities. And I think Boise's prepared to do that. The others may not be, I don't know, but to say, what are your priorities, and then incorporate those into our work rather than have them as a separate thing that.
Well, I thought what you wanted was data, not
Yeah.
if a neighborhood asks for traffic calming or speed bumps, basically all we need is data. And, as far as crash history or ticket history, and then we can take it from there, either staff or commission. But I don't know that we need to have a list of priorities until we have a list of concerned people.
So this is my suggestion, so that's what I'd like to just, that's why I gave it to you early. You can look at it tomorrow. I hope we do, but we can save that for another time. Thanks.
Mr. President, Commissioner Hanson, thank you. We've got that. Our traffic team will review that expeditiously today, and you will have thoughts back from us this evening, first thing tomorrow morning before the meeting, so you can review.
No hurry. I consider it a start of a conversation that'll go on for a while. So,
leading on to that, though, I do want to let the commission know that John Wasson and I had a very successful meeting, again, with Boise PD's lieutenant, who is in charge of traffic operations going forward. We had a great discussion on how we can best support each other in operations. We specifically talked about how the Boise PD can help us in identifying areas of speeding, crash controls, this sort of thing that may not be in the written reports because they're out there every day. So what we're doing moving forward is that our team will be having a bigger presence on their Thursday meetings, 1 o'clock and such, similar to our liaisons that we have with all the cities. We meet, we attend their city council meetings, and our plans and projects team, and they started that yesterday, will be sharing concepts with the Boise PD on one of those Thursday meetings, not every week, but to get their input, or at least get their focus on, here's what we're thinking. Is there something that you've seen that can impact us or help us in when we begin concept and designs to ensure that we're incorporating as a pilot project with Boise the implications or the observations that the police department has. It was very well received, and they're very excited about partnering with us. So based on the discussion that Chief Lee had here, we've already taken the steps to start institutionalizing that closer collaboration on what the police see when it comes to our plans and projects going forward.
Well, it just helps us to be more proactive instead of reactive, and so that's always a good thing.
Yeah, Mr. President, Director Wong, I know we're going to start building that type of relationship with the Ada County Sheriff and with the 3 contract cities.
We don't like that.
Are we?
Yes,
are we
ma'am.
reaching out? That they have Eagle Star and CUNA, because with all the development and things that are going on, there are certain, specific issues for each city. So that might be good too. Maybe not, every single month, but probably to establish something there as well.
Mr. President, Commissioner Megan, great question. The answer is no, not right now. We'd like to start this program first to see how it goes. But at the same token, our staffs are intimately involved when it comes to, and their staffs are, when it comes to specific planning things, are on the planning teams. But it's a great concept, and we will get there.
I think with the police, right,
we will get there.
right. There's just so
Guaranteed.
much going on out there.
Yes.
As we've seen with the road closures, et cetera. So, thank you.
In front of you also, you have a map, a quick map of San Felipe. I know there was I shared with you recently, well, we talked about this for a couple weeks, but I shared with you again, just a closer written version of what we're looking at and the options that we've come up with, our tremendous legal team, on how we can pursue maybe a win-win on this issue. As I shared with you, our preferred option was option A, the first one, and I greatly would appreciate your thoughts on that before we move forward. We are planning to meet with several members of the neighborhood. We were thinking about doing that or hoping to do that today or tomorrow. Unfortunately, one of the key team members is under the weather a little bit, so we will continue to work that as we move forward. But I am looking forward to your thoughts on this. The little green dot, that's where the road closure is right now. And as I shared, I believe with all of you, based on Commissioner May, your question, I believe, in 84, 97, and 99, whatever the dates were, or 74 and stuff, we understand that the commission at the time did close those roads based on cut-through traffic. That was the issue. And as I've shared with you, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on what side of the fence you're on, the law has been changed. We do not have that authority. You do not have that authority at this point in time. However, there are options. And if you wish to pursue those options, have that discussion with a couple of neighbors, but I would like to get your thoughts before we come back and say, yeah, we decided on option Z.
Director Wong, In relation to my question back to you, I appreciate all those alternatives, and number one, I think that was similar to what we did up at Table Rock.
Yes.
But I just wanted to understand, you know, how this all came about, and just exactly what the neighbors are thinking now with it before we select an option to go forward. And I noticed that there's another barricade on an alley up there.
Yeah, we could clarify. So, yeah, this is a
I'm
very,
just curious, because
it's a
just don't
unique
know.
neighborhood, and
Yeah.
there's a little alley, tiny little alley that's unopened right away, and there was some work done
Right.
in that. And neighbors had different agreements, different ideas as to what should be best on that unopened right of way. And the position we took was work amongst yourselves to figure out what's the best, and work with us so we can tell you whether we can or can't do something on an unopened right of way and what the law says about unopened right of way. It took them a while, as neighbors sometimes would prefer to come directly to ACHD, get an answer, and then say, well, ACHD, let me do this. And we were, no, work amongst yourselves, because you got to live with the consequences of what that decision is. So they've come to an agreement on that street, but in the process, of course, it daylighted the fact that the decision was made way back in 1997 on this other segment, because of the traffic dangers on a very steep, the configuration of that neighborhood would never be built today. And so that said, well, the agreement as the neighborhood all came up to in 97, actually couldn't pass today because the legislature's passed some laws in the interim. So we have to figure out another solution. And so again, the ball is back in your court as neighbors. Talk amongst yourselves,
Right.
Work out a solution, and we'll tell you how we can best do that within the parameters of the law. And so I just want to do a shout out to Steve Price, who's been communicating with them and saying, these are some of the things we can do under the parameters of the law. And so rather, it's been good to see the neighbors talk to each other.
And it's good they know that
one of the
coming
best
in.
things that's happened out of this is
Right.
they've all talked to each other and understood whatever it is. We'll support them as long as it's legal, and help them.
But we need to
figure out.
understand where they're coming from and what they're talking about.
Exactly.
So Director
And
Wong,
that's
thank you for
exactly
setting that
right.
up.
So I really appreciate Steve,
Yeah.
and I know Steve's not well. I guess that's why you can't meet with him today.
Right.
So I'll pass on giving you my suggestion for the alternative once you come back and tell us what they're all thinking.
Mr. President, Commissioners, I do want to remind you that currently, the law does not provide the current setup that's up there, and I have delayed removing everything out there as we work through this. I've had that discussion with General Counsel and such, and we don't see at this point a huge issue, but I do want to remind you that by the letter of the law, those should be removed immediately. That being said, we're comfortable in working through this to everybody's win-win at this point in time, and we will keep you posted on where we are. But again, I would appreciate, as you are comfortable, providing either Steve or myself your thoughts on the list of things that we've come up with. Commissioner Pickering, I sent you, Commissioner Kenyon, and Councilwoman Woodings a staff report that the Park and Rec staff in Boise and our staff worked through to solve, hopefully, any future issues with traffic concerns that occurred this summer at the Barber Park rafting thing. I think we have some pretty good ideas. Both staffs have worked that. They will continue to work that, and I'll keep you specifically updated and the other elected officials that were there at that during that time frame. Let's see. We talked about our first inspector that will be here on Monday. We're looking forward to that. Maybe not the greatest of news, but as you know, on October 20th, you received a request from the city of Boise to enter into a deferral or a waiver of the time frame to consider the thing. You discussed that. You had great discussions on that. The petitioner asked for a 10-day waiver. And in your discussion with Commissioner May, you were very emphatic. I reviewed the tapes on making sure we were specific on this. Commissioner Hanson, you made the motion. It was very clear that you were granting a 10-day waiver. Unfortunately, the request came in, should have come in on 30th October. Boise failed to meet your timeline. It came in on the 2nd of November. I've had that discussion with the legal team. We know how that answer is, so I just want to tee that up to you to say it, from our perspective, it's an invalid request at this point in time. That being said, what would you like to do?
Director Wong, and that's not an arbitrary deadline, right? That's our policy when they come back in for the waiver of an extension. I think Mr. Price said 10 days.
Yes and no. The policy stipulates a 10 working day area. However, your motion specifically stated 10 days, which again negated the current policy because that's what you wanted to do. And so for the second time, they missed. So again, I haven't responded.
So you're saying
to
10 days versus 10 working days?
Yeah, your motion was 10 days. As you read the policy, it'll say 10 working days. And there's a couple other things in that policy that they didn't hit anyway.
But we're talking about a couple days because an interpretation is weekends. I assume short-staffed city doesn't work on weekends, but who knows?
Mr. President, Commissioner Hanson, no. Your motion was, and again, please don't misunderstand. Your motion was very specific.
Right, except that I would say, we didn't discuss whether it's working or non-working. So it seems to me just the consequence. It seems that we're being very picky. If they hadn't filed by today, if they hadn't filed at all, I'd be concerned. But they had 10 working days. They got it in 10 working days, and if we're counting weekends, the consequences of not moving forward with the cities. This is only an Ada County issue, obviously, because we have two separate governments, and it just doesn't. I would interpret my motion to be 10 working days. Whether I didn't use the word working. The word never came up. The difference between working. Legal counsel was sitting there and says, "Do you mean working or just total number of calendar days?" But that question wasn't asked. So I would interpret my motion to mean 10 working days.
That's why we're here.
What
is it you wanted?
I'm using what memory I have left in my life to
and that's
think of how we get some of these requests that we grant. And quite often they're just an email. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And I see absolutely no problem or no reason why when we granted the 10 whatever days, which was an exception to our policy to begin with, why someone couldn't have just said, "Please, thank you. We appeal it. Let us know when the date is that we'll need to be ready," and press send. And that didn't happen either. So I don't understand it. And I know that and I say this with tongue in cheek, one of the big complaints that people have about bureaucracies in government generally is they don't run it like a business. If this was in one of my earlier lives and I had messed up a small assignment like this twice, I'd probably be in a world of hurt.
Director, I feel like we're taking too much time on this. We talked a lot at the last meeting about it. I feel like it's pretty simple. I would agree with Commissioner Hanson. I would just go forward with it, and it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's 2 days. We didn't specify if it was working days. I'm under the assumption it's working days. They're another government agency. They're already short-staffed. We're short-staffed. Just kind of, a partnership is more important. So that's kind of my take.
And we have to deal with the substance. We can always reject the substance because the substance hasn't come before us. So I always prefer dealing with the substance rather than getting rid of something just simply on a technicality.
Although not a legal term, I did refer to this as a unfortunate oops. That being said, what's your pleasure?
So if you'd like, I'd be happy to make a motion when the minutes are in front of us, take it off the regular agenda and indicate that the minutes should reflect my motion to be 10 working days.
It's not
Since
on
it's
any
in-
agendas, Commissioner.
I think that's the meeting minutes of the 20th of October, right?
Oh, you mean, an update to the minutes of October 20th.
October 20th minutes are on our consent agenda. All we need to do is clarify that my intent of the motion was to be working days, even though we didn't discuss it.
Would you use the clarification language of unintentional oops?
I guess we should ask Scott, since he's here with,
So today's
all the bells and whistles
10th
and
working day.
expertises. Is that even something that we can do to amend the minutes to make that happen?
Mr. President, Commissioners, if Commissioner Hansen wishes to clarify his intent and reflect that in the minutes, that would be acceptable.
Okay, that answers that question.
All right?
So today is the 10th day, then?
It
we're
is the
doing
10th day,
Working, okay.
They made
10th
it.
working day.
And so did we discover that, or did they come to that realization and contact us? How did we find that?
We discovered that.
We discovered, so still nothing from the city?
You know, we have it.
They
They sent us a letter by email yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So let's go ahead and go through Jim's suggested protocol, because this needs to be done legally.
Mhm.
And then I believe we're okay. We don't even have an issue to discuss.
Is that good? Legal term, unintended oops.
So I'll move when we do the consent agenda, take that off, put on the regular, we can approve the minutes with one amendment, and that is the word working day.
Okay. You also remember item number 3.
And item 3, yes.
Okay.
Well, that's just to be held.
Okay, Commissioners, again, very quickly, as I sum this up, just a couple statistics for you for this month. Our commuter ride team is doing absolutely tremendous. As of to date, the van pool has removed 2,154 tons of carbon dioxide and displaced 2,742,643 miles off of the system for cars and such. We are hitting, I shouldn't say that, we are meeting our goal at this point of not to exceed accidents or not to exceed incidents with the district, so they're doing a tremendous job on that. Your PCI for the entire network remains at 80, which is in a very good area. Your plans, your development and technical service team, FY21 completed 1,162 plan submittals and 1,053 development applications. Goes to growth, something fierce.
Gary did them all himself?
No, we wanted them done right. As you know, we track all of our wages, especially for COVID relief, very closely. You've seen this before. That's the graph shows the red is very small. We have less than 1% right now going to COVID relief, which is tremendous. For accounting, we have 71% of our team members that are eligible on the 401k match. Thank you, Commissioners. Again, this is a great success across the board.
That's a phenomenal percentage.
In 21 so far, we have expended about $53,000 on our self-insurance maintenance program. 32,000 of that is the one accident we had with the paint truck and such. So you take that out, doing a tremendous job. And I will remind the Commission that prior to us going self-insured, and thank you for letting us do that, we were spending approximately $350,000 to $500,000 a year on insurance. So now we're spending $50,000 when it comes down. So it's absolutely great. And then for a couple of national statistics, construction materials are up 28.8%. Transportation is up 17.2%. Unleaded gas local is up 62.2%. And I understand there's a slight decrease coming in this week. I think there's a penny or two. Diesel local is up 61.9%. And the average newly constructed home in Ada County sold for $625,000, $152. So in a nutshell, Commissioners, that's my report. And I'd like to end with a final thing. Friday is going to be a very important day for the district. It's Commissioner Hansen's birthday. Happy birthday early. We do have cake over here for you and for the commission during your break to celebrate. But Commissioner Hansen, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Live the dream. Commissioners,
Every day.
I stand for any questions you might have.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Director, I just wanted to thank you. I noticed that on Curtis and Ustick, that intersection, the flashing yellow was deactivated when we had a pedestrian push the button and was in the crosswalk. And I was so delighted to see that. It waited until the entire sequence of that pedestrian signal went through, and then it promptly turned yellow once that pedestrian was safely down the road and the sequence was no longer in there. So I know that there's a lot of people that are looking forward to seeing that done across the county, but I just want to say thank you for staying on top of that, and it's a delight to see that that's finally happening.
Thank you.
Very good.
Mr. President, I have one quick question. Director, can you give us an update on the closures of Linder Road and McMillan Road and what the projected time is going to be for those?
Sir, not off the top, but I will get back to the commission on that. I do not know.
Okay.
I ran into that this weekend also. Didn't see any detour signs, and so I've already addressed that with our team. They're addressing it with the contractors, but I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, looks like it's 12 o'clock.
Mr. President, it's 12 o'clock.
Folks, we'd like to begin our commission meeting now with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for being here, both in person and on Zoom. We'll begin the meeting by entertaining a motion to accept the agenda or approve the agenda.
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We'll now move to the consent agenda, and items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless the commissioner or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. All consent agenda items are commission action items unless noted. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. President, I would move to approve the consent agenda with two clarifications. One is in the minutes, the reference to the extension of 10 days is to 10 working days. And that in item 3, that we move that to time certain November 10th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We'll move now to the regular agenda items. There is one, and it is a request for reconsideration of a previous commission action on October 27th, 2021 for the Overland Road and Vista Avenue concept study update. The request for reconsideration was submitted by Mr. Don Kostelek, who we expect is he on the on Zoom? I don't see him here in person. Okay, so
Maybe he didn't think we'd be so
the
efficient.
request has been made, but we have no one here to defend the reason for that. So by way of, we will go ahead and discuss that now, and then we'll consider a motion. Just so we all realize, this presentation we had was for a concept study only, which in my rather remedial vocabulary will be like, we were discussing a pipe dream, and to go from pipe dream to design. And we had someone, Mr. Kostelek, who was upset that we didn't have some specific criteria for design in that concept study motion. And so he asked that it be reconsidered. So we said, okay, we're here to reconsider it. That's all I have to say about it. I'm not willing to vote to reconsider anything that isn't something concrete or asphalt. And none of this is. Anybody else have a comment?
Yes, I actually have a question. I'm wondering if we could get, I'm just interested to know probably from our general counsel's office, what are the kind of the parameters for the request for reconsideration of something like this? I know, for example, in a court of law, there are rules about standing, who can request reconsideration and who can't. And I just want to make sure that we have a clear understanding.
And Scott will explain that,
That
but
is.
we have never had a request like this in the 7 years that I've been on the commission.
Right, it does seem unusual.
Mr. President, members of the commission, for the record, Scott Spears, Assistant General Counsel. To answer Commissioner McKinney's question, reconsideration is found in policy section 1006.11, and it starts off by saying a commissioner, a member of ACHD staff, or any other person objecting to any final action taken may request reconsideration of that action, provided that the request is not for reconsideration of a previously requested reconsideration. And then it goes on to state that only a commission member who voted in the prevailing side can move for reconsideration. And then it goes on to the rules for reconsideration may be made at any time during the meeting or subsequently thereafter, before 2 days prior to the next regular meeting. So in that regard, the request is timely. The request for reconsideration must be supported by written documentation setting forth new facts and information not printed at the earlier meeting, or a changed situation that is developed since the taking of the earlier vote, or information establishing an error of fact or law in the earlier action. The request may also be supported by oral testimony. And then it goes on from there to indicate that if the motion is approved, then you reconsider it at a later time.
Just one question on that. I noticed that the initial section that you read talked about a final action.
Yes.
Does the approval of a, let me think, we approved the Overland Road and Vista Avenue concept study update. Does that fall in the category of a final action?
Yes, it was a final action as to that concept study.
Okay.
Mr. President and Mr. Spear, could we do, much like the minutes of the 27th meeting won't be before us until next week. Could we do like we did just with the minutes? And clarify it's the intent of the commission that we follow our own policy and that clarify that the 10-foot sidewalk extend to the curb ramps. I mean, that's all it is. It's just a sentence. None of us discussed it. Can we just clarify that for our minutes? Make a motion now.
Mr. President, Commissioner Hansen, I don't believe that would be an appropriate clarification.
Inappropriate? That would be?
No.
It wouldn't even be accurate because we didn't even discuss it.
We didn't discuss it. I know it was,
Correct.
the assumption is, are we going to follow our own policies with respect to curb ramps?
But don't those questions relate to design? We're at
Yes.
concept study level.
Right.
And those will be design considerations that staff will have to implement as they're designing it. So we're not even to that point. It sounds to me like this concern is premature, basically, that it kind of goes beyond the concept study stage.
Well, and maybe we can just affirm that we will make sure that that's addressed going forward. I think that's kind of what the intent is here.
You did in the emails going up to this this request for reconsideration.
Mr. President, if I could also, that part of the reconsideration request that was laid out by the citizen had been previously discussed
Yes.
with the staff, via both verbally and via email with the appropriate staff. The staff responded saying, thank you. This is a concept. These things will be fleshed out during design. So there really is,
There's no reason.
there's no
to
there
change
there.
anything.
So that was
At this
communicated
point in
in the
time, and such. So, again, it is in front of you, and such, but I believe, I'm not gonna put any words in the General Counsel, but perspective of staff is there's no relevance here at this point for this type of reconsideration, because all these issues are gonna be done through design, through consultation with, the appropriate stakeholders, the public, you, as we move forward, as we would do with any process going forward. Did I misspeak on that at all? Okay.
And we had some conversation about this. In fact, yeah, as Scott mentioned, the request for reconsideration needs to be made by a commissioner. I did so as a courtesy.
Correct.
So, Mr. Chairman, then if we can't just clarify what the intent is, and I'm not gonna be around, when this does come up for design, which is in 2026, I think. So I'd make a motion, we can reconsider and then just put that clarification sentence in when we do.
Is there a second to that motion? Motion dies for lack of a second.
And I just want to clarify, this project, just like I said last week, this project is not a priority for any of the neighborhoods because the dangers of other streets and neighborhoods are much higher priority. So I anticipate that this will continue to be deferred out past 2026 because obviously we've been living with it for 70 years.
So it has been communicated with the individual that this will be taken care of
Yes.
as we move forward. This will be looked at because it's not unreasonable. I think he brings up some very valid points. You can see down at Boise State on Belmont at the crossings there, they have the yellow going all the way around on the corners there. So I mean, it is something that's done, and so I think we just acknowledge that we've heard his concerns, and this will be addressed going forward. So,
That is on.
and I think that's on record with the emails coming back from staff.
Yes.
So I think we're taking care
So
of that.
if I'm right, I would make a motion that the request for reconsideration be denied. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll oppose it.
The motion carries. That ends the items on our regular agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to address us as part of public communications? Stacy, anybody? Then this meeting is adjourned. We will adjourn to the pre-commission room for an executive session.
First, aren't we doing
But
a
first,
work
we're going to
session?
have a work session from Brook Green. I've done this to you 2 weeks in a row now, haven't I? Okay,
This is becoming a regular thing.
that's right. I just have to
Lucky
keep her on
for
her
us.
toes. And so she's going to discuss with us the accelerated scoping that we each have experienced and had the opportunity to address with her.
Thank you, President Goldthorpe, members of the commission. Consider me the opening act for Brooke. For the record, Tom Laws, planning supervisor with
You're paid less
ACHD.
anyway, right? Like opening acts, okay. Just kidding.
And with me today is Brooke Green, our senior transportation planner. Our presentation is really intended to review the accelerated scoping items presented as commission directive over our last few integrated 5-year work plan work sessions, and then also take a step back and view at a higher level what scoping actually is and how it fits into the concept studies, the design phase, right-of-way, and construction. I will be discussing specifically those 16 accelerated projects, and then I'll pass it on to Brooke, who will really get into those finer details with the process, what the deliverables look like, our timeline and schedule with the typical scoping process and our accelerated process. And then really we're just looking for head nods to confirm direction that we're on the right pace. So first off, I just want to start by saying thank you. These 16 projects that we've been discussing, if it wasn't for you working with staff, working with our partners, working with the public, we really appreciate you bringing these to our attention and moving these forward. This list you have seen most recently last week with the updated spreadsheet that Brooke provided all of you, and we've been able to sit down and chat with each of you about these. So I'll kind of breeze through these, but specifically there were 16 projects identified. And what staff is proposing is that one of these projects, Warm Springs Broadway to Windsong, be moved directly into a concept study. We'll have 3 of these projects actually be incorporated into existing active projects, 2 pedestrian enhancement projects along Linder Road, which will fit in perfectly with our Linder concept study that's underway this fiscal year. And then we also have a Washington Street sidewalk project in downtown Meridian that can concurrently fit in with a design effort for residential capital maintenance occurring right now. There are also 4 projects that we're proposing to evaluate in-house. Mystic Cove Way and the Greenbelt, looking at bicycle and pedestrian connection and connectivity. That can occur right now with internal design. Osage Street, really doing a feasibility study, looking at how we can better improve that street for bicycle and pedestrian connectivity. Star Road, the section is right in front of Star Elementary School, and looking at improving that corridor for all users. And then Eagle Road and Ranch Drive, looking at a enhanced pedestrian crossing at that location. In addition, we have 8 projects that we're intending to scope by consultant to be completed no later than January 2020. These projects all entail a variety of improvements, everything from intersection improvements, bicycle and pedestrian improvements, enhanced crossings, multi-use pathways, and Brooke will get into a little more detail about what that process will look like and what that timeline is. And so with that, I'll go ahead and pass it on to her, and she'll talk about the scoping effort.
Thank you, Tom. And it's a pleasure to be back and before you. Be almost frequent, almost weekly at this point. But a lot of this is have gone through with each one of you when we had the privilege to chat last week about your projects that you identified. But I do want to just quickly go over in general, so folks understand, like, what is scoping, what does that process look like, but more importantly, kind of what you can anticipate your deliverable to be when we're done with the accelerated scoping. So this actually should look familiar. This was presented to you by Justin Lucas in September. What you're seeing here is kind of the first phase of our scoping process, which is our project identification. And I bring this to your attention because it's important to note that projects come from different directions. They either come from our partner agencies when we solicit their feedback through our integrated 5-year work plan. Oftentimes they do come through public requests. So we have community programs applications, folks who like to see sidewalks in front of their homes, they fill out that application. Maintenance, traffic, safety needs. So if we find out through our traffic team that there is a safety need out on the streets, that is one way a project could make its way through this process. Certainly you have your adopted plans, which all of you participate in and actually adopt. Your adopted plans, neighborhood plans, concepts of, your bike master plan, all of those oftentimes can generate some additional projects. And lastly, where we're at today, which is your commission request. I'm gonna try this one. But I do want to highlight what you can anticipate when we normally do our annual scoping process. It takes about 10 months, and we review approximately 100 projects. And what you'll see in there is the quarters in which we take care of this process. October through December is our project identification. We're working with our partner agencies, with the community. Quarter 2, January through March, is when our consultants do the field visit. Prior to us hiring consultant, we used to actually take out a team of approximately 15 employees, get in a van for 2 weeks, and we go and we visit projects. Well, certainly that's a lot of our staff time, so we have gone with a consultant, freeing up several of our employees, my colleagues' time, so they can continue to work on their projects. So that happens through January through March. April through June is when we bring it back. We do have a smaller internal scoping team who does look at their preliminary scoping statements. And then you can anticipate we bring that final scoping package. We actually bring it in-house around quarter 4, which is in July. So this is a very lengthy project for us to go ahead and do all of our scoping efforts.
This is our normal scoping.
Normal. I've got another slide that's going to show you what the condensed schedule looks like. But before I do that, I want to go over a couple of things. Just what we look for when we do evaluate our projects. So our consultant who is out there during those 3 months, they're looking at projects, the footprint, right? They're looking at the irrigation, the stormwater needs. They're taking into account the project extents. Is it feasible? Is this something that we can do? Project costs. This is also the time where we identify the estimate associated with that project. We need an estimate so we can funnel it into the integrated 5-year work plan. We also take into account some of our new adopted guidelines that you guys participated in, which is our bike and ped. Now that has been folded into scoping. So you can anticipate every project that comes forward. We have looked at the LTS guidelines that we have put forward here within the commission. As I highlighted, project capacity. When we did it with our team of 15 folks, we actually could probably accomplish 50 projects in evaluating. Now that we've hired a consultant, it's somewhere to 75 to 100. And that varies. It varies based off of the project needs and the projects that were identified through that earlier slide I highlighted. So our projects can go 2 different tracks. So once we complete the scoping process, they've got 2 tracks in which they can take here at ACHD. Project inclusion into the integrated 5-year work plan. It's year 1, year 2, year 3. This slide was presented to you back in September, but it's safe to say that almost every project that comes forward takes approximately 3 to 5 years to complete. Not all projects go straight to design. We do have some that go into what's called a concept study, and we've highlighted that. A concept study is a project in which we went during scoping, looked at it and said, you know what, we really don't necessarily know what the appropriate alternative is going to be. And so we take it to a concept study where we engage with the public. And a concept study also provides opportunity for us to go through several different options for that corridor. I'm going to give you an example, Collister or Kootenai Street. If we went out and scoped Kootenai Street, we look at that and go, you know what, there's a lot of constraints. Either it's very disruptive to the neighborhood. Certainly we're trying to take into account some new facility treatments. We need a concept to help us through that process. Once we're done with the concept, then we fold it back into the integrated 5-year work plan. It goes through design, goes through right of way, and goes through construction. So in essence, it's pretty much safe to say every project that you see on the streets here at ACHD's right of way started through scoping. Our deliverable, this is what our deliverable is following each of our scoping efforts. I bring this to your attention, and when we chatted, all of us last week, I did show you this. This is what you can anticipate this accelerated scoping process, what your deliverable is going to be. We look to the scope statement, which is what are we going to do with that project? We talked earlier, the cost estimate. I've got to figure out what that estimate is going to look like. So we identify the estimates. We also look and see, you know what, is it going to be a more challenging project? Should we throw it into concept? We'll check that box if so. But we also look at existing projects, existing plans. So if we identify if it's been identified in a neighborhood plan, if it's in our bike master plan, we also denote that here on this sheet. Our timeline for your projects, the accelerated commission directive projects, is much faster. Whereas I highlighted earlier, it's 10 months for us to go through that process. Well, you've only got 8, so that makes it a little bit easier. But there are trade-offs. For us to achieve this new 3-month timeline, we're going to identify your projects, which we've done. We sat with you. I've talked with every single one of you to make sure that I've got it right, that what we're going to scope is what you had in mind and what your vision is for that street. We're going to go out, we're going to do the field visits. In December, our consultant will bring us our preliminary scoping statements, and we anticipate a final scoping package to occur in January of this next year. While this is very condensed, we can do it with the 8 projects that were identified. When we do it larger projects, the 100 plus, it certainly takes a significant amount of time. That concludes our presentation. I hope the Scoping 101 was informational, but I do also appreciate the opportunity last week to chat with each one of you. It certainly provided some insight into this process, and I hope I was able to answer your questions.
All right. Well, and I appreciate, I was going to say the offer to get it done. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I just didn't see any red light on this anymore. So anyway, appreciate the fact that the willingness that staff had to get this done and the fact that it will be done in such a timely manner.
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you, Brick.
Welcome.
It was a great opportunity to meet with you both. Thank you so much.
And Mr. President, I just really thank you, Brooke and Tom, because it makes such a difference to know that as sort of the first phase before you go to consulting your sense staff or everybody else is talk to the people who actually represent and have walked these streets and driven on these streets a lot. So you get a concept of what our experience is, what we've been hearing. And so I'm so glad you've been given permission to reach out to us early in the phase so that we aren't sort of trying to figure out when it is we should provide our input, that you continue to feel free to come to us. And I know I ask a lot of questions about that. And as you know, because of that, you know, we are looking at the Warm Springs one, the one you listed, in 3 phases, because that's what the neighbors said. We understand this is, and so the phase that we, Commissioner May and I walked between Costin and Penitentiary is the first phase that the neighborhood really wants to be seen moved first. And then the other 2 parts, it's not unlike Kootenai, and the opportunity, I think, is really good to look at these as corridors instead of as just little, oh, we're going to do a crosswalk here or a bike lane here or a light here. We actually look at it from the neighborhood's perspective. So I really appreciate this. Hope this is the beginning of a new process where you feel comfortable and you feel you have permission to reach out to the commissioners regularly to find out more about what we're hearing on these streets of neighborhoods we represent. Thank you.
We also appreciate Tom coming out at Dark 30
Yes,
and taking that long walk with us.
That was good. You probably heard a lot of things you'd heard before, but in the context of, oh, okay, this is how people actually live with it. Yeah. And thank you, Commissioner May, for getting that.
I enjoyed it. It was great.
All the way across.
Yeah,
I owe you
all
one.
the way from Eagle.
I'll come out to Eagle or Star and
Yeah.
walk one of those at Dark 100 too.
No.
They wanted to do it when school started, and we wanted the principal there, so that's why they picked that time.
It was great.
Right, thanks.
President.
We'll see you again soon. Well, maybe not Brooke.
Mr.
I think I'm coming back in a couple.
Oh, okay, all right.
Mr. President,
Yes,
since this is a work session about projects, I had something brought to my attention yesterday about a project on our IFYWP. Would it be appropriate to throw it out now and ask my questions, since Justin's in here, and
well.
or do you want to?
It's probably, you know, we have the work sessions which have specific topics. So probably ought to get through them. And if it's something the commission needs to address, maybe have a work session on that.
No, it was just a quick question, a clarification.
Okay, well, let's go.
On a
Go ahead and
project.
ask it then.
Go ahead and ask it.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, I think, recall it quickly, and if we need to have expanded, we can certainly push it down. But we had a joint meeting with the City of Eagle on July 29th. They asked for a 1-year pause on the project downtown. We agreed, and the nod was then construction was supposed to be 23, was moved a year to 24, and then I was notified yesterday that an email from our staff with our IFYWP, that project has actually been moved to 2026. And our agreement and handshake with them at our meeting that day was 1 year, which would put it in 24. So, and if we need to move this, but I wanted to get it out here because I was just made aware of it.
Mr. President, Commissioner May, we'll look into that right away.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right.
Okay,
That was easy. Thanks, Mary.
you bet.
All right. Round 2 is our Southwest Mobility Survey on the road, Maple Grove Road from Amity to Victory. And Cody, you're on.
Thank you, President Goldthorpe, Cody Oman, Capital Projects Senior Project Manager, giving you a quick update on the Maple Grove Amity Victory project as it relates to the Southwest Mobility Survey responses. The purpose of the presentation is to summarize the responses, how it came about, and how it relates to the project. So quick project overview for Maple Grove Amity Victory. Basically, the project need and purpose is to accommodate current and future traffic while increasing safety for all users. The commission had requested that we go back and look at doing a 3-lane option, and this kind of led into this Southwest Mobility Survey. And just to note that this is a very high priority for Boise and a top priority for Ada County, this project. Quick overview of the project area. Maple Grove, south of the section that's currently under construction or wrapping up, next to Maple Grove Elementary, junior high school, another elementary school down on Amity. To give a more kind of area specific look, kind of zoomed out, turned the map to the right, so north is now to the left, or sorry, north is now to the right. just to show recent development, kind of fill-in projects. Those are kind of general, they're not exact or up to date. And then 2 large areas that are looking to be developed into some kind of development in the near future, as well as the extension of Maple Grove south past the New York Canal. The Master Street map shows that that road will continue to the south. And the proposed timeline for the Maple Grove project currently in design, which will continue to next year. Then we'll have our right-of-way years. And currently with the draft integrated 5-year work plan that's currently out, the roundabout is now scheduled for construction in 24-25 and the widening set out to future. So the Southwest Mobility Survey, initial talks about, going to the public on Maple Grove. We wanted to know what their needs, concerns, and priorities were. And as we realized that this information was going to impact the whole area, we said, well, let's pull back even further and get kind of a whole area concept kind of level survey out there. So again, this purpose was to acquire public input for future needs for major roadways in the southwest region, acknowledging rapid growth and understanding the public's interests to not only better the Maple Grove project, but other projects in the area. Our notification efforts included over 14,000 mailers, 31 sandwich boards, ads in the press, direct emails to our agency and partners, social media. This created additional circulation by word of mouth and radio broadcasts. So the initial link that we sent out went to kind of a standard ACHD project website page, which also then had a link to what we call story map. If you haven't seen it, I'd greatly recommend checking it out. I would have brought it up, but didn't want to, have any tech glitches or anything like that. But we included an area map. This shows a couple things we included, including a video summary of the whole story map. That was the top picture there. Some current drone pictures of congestion in the area. And then the bottom one there is actually a slider map to kind of show larger developments between 2003 and by present day we meant the current Google map, but so you could slide back and forth and see what the changes were. And we got another picture, this one of Maple Grove, and we also had some sliders showing comparisons of a 3-lane and 5-lane. So the top one shows the difference of a mid-block crossing for a 3 and 5. The 5-lane has a Z crossing, both have an RRFB. The next one, middle one, is a 5-lane with and without landscaping. There was also a 3-lane version of this. And the bottom one is the signal versus kind of a dual lane roundabout. Again, sliding back and forth to see kind of just what the layout difference would be. There's also an interactive comment map that allowed comments to specific locations, and those could be categorized and subcategorized, and also allowed people to like those comments. So it's kind of more of a collaborative space for feedback for the public. This also included a trend map, which is shown on this slide, showing where the comments were and those likes that were given. We had 794 likes. Not all were categorized, but you can kind of see different sections and what those concerns were about. And again, you can go to this, the story map is still live. You can still go, you can click on these, get more information. Or I have a little bit more background info if you'd like. There was also just a standard survey that included 24 questions. This ran from August 12th to September 7th. And like I said, the story map is still active, though the interactive map and the survey are closed. So here's the general area for the survey, extended from Eagle Road to just east of Cole Road, between Victory Road and Columbia Road, or the New York Canal. And this map is just an expansion of the map I just showed, showing where we get comments on the interactive map, with yellow being roadway comments, blue being bike comments, gray sidewalk, and green transit. So we received 440 survey participants, 317 comments on the interactive map, like I said, and then 794 likes on those comments, 828 visits to the actual story map, and 691 visits to the project webpage.
That seems to me that's a pretty good response.
Yes, and those numbers for the visits were just while the survey was live, so we've had additional views since then. Primary concerns that we received, so this is showing the infographics that we plan to put on the project website. Top concern being increased traffic congestion and wait times, and then lack of walk and biking facilities, and then difficulty getting in and out of neighborhoods and businesses. And then what does the public want to see in the area? relates directly to those: less traffic congestion, improved commute times, improved walking bike facilities, and reduced speeds was kind of additional one to go with that. And again, 440 survey respondents, 317 comments on the map. Some other major information received: how does community move around the area? Most drive, some walk, some bike. How they prefer to. More people would prefer to bike was the main grower there. How does the community rate traffic in the area? Most say it's getting worse or already bad. Community barriers to walking, we wanted to get that from the public. Basically lack of infrastructure for both bikes and walking, lack of crossings for walking, and vehicles too fast on both. Additional was a lack of traffic separation for bicycles.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Cody, this is a really great slide. I really appreciate that because it captures just people's wants and why they're not able to do what they feel like they're comfortable to do. And I just really want to commend you for asking these questions in the way that you have. It really paints a really clear picture about what we should be doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that over the last few years, the quality of public outreach that we do is just, such as this, is just amazing. And to be able to get a more accurate response. I'm not saying a numbers only, but with these numbers brings a greater accuracy. So whether we do a 3 or 5 lane there, people are equally concerned about walking and biking as they are about driving.
Mr. President, I just want to echo the thoughts of the other 2 commissioners. I mean, this is very impressive. Instead of just getting a generic rating of the overall project, you're drilling down, you're getting into the specifics so we can really address those concerns. So, a great job.
There's such a big response to this, that this is something that, for instance, because it's mostly in my district, I can take out to the homeowners associations, the neighborhood associations, everyone, and say accurately, this is what you want. I love it.
Yeah.
And I will say, both Chris Kinselman and Edson Batista, they requested all of this information directly. I mean, I was going to give it to them anyway, but they definitely wanted to see all of this for future planning and future prioritization of projects.
That's great to hear too. Thank you.
Well, and Mr. President, if I may, one of the things that I liked that impressed me the most was the kind of the geographic distribution of responses. We didn't just get responses from people in a couple of isolated areas, but it was pretty uniform across the whole region, and that I think is helpful.
Then another quick infographic on most common responses for each mode. Roadway opportunities want to see increased capacity, enhanced connectivity, mobility, and reduction in congestion and traffic delays. Bike opportunities improve the locations and conditions, improve bike lane connectivity, and add more crossing opportunities. Similar ones for the sidewalk opportunities improve just basically infrastructure, increase, improve number of crossings, and also make sure that they're accessible to everyone. And then transit opportunities, basically the main comment was expand the transit system so that it's available. An example of interactive map comments are received, just a couple here, 6 kind of different kind of topics, and then also what's called a density map for the comments received. So counted the number of comments on the roadway and the nearby intersections. So you can see higher concentration over on Cole Road and 5 Mile Road, but still, as Commissioner McKinney said, good distribution.
Mr. President, and Cody, this is one that really struck me. It really does give us a sense of the neighborhood, the large neighborhood there, and to really show how, because Cole is already 5 lanes and it's going to be, there's a lot of commercial on it further north. Orchard, which isn't shown in here, is just to the right, and that's also going to be a big old 5 lane. To the west, we've got Cloverdale and Eagle, and then we got Lake Hazel going east-west, and then Victory to the north, and Overland is further north. So we got that neighborhood has some major 5 lanes on all sides, all around it, and this is really good to help illustrate why it's so important that at least that core that Maple Grove and 5 Mile go through be protected for livability. and that we not perceive it simply as yet another way of passing through, because coal is a commercial activity. Sure enough, they'll probably use Maple Grove as a pass-through, as a cut-through. And the consequences of induced demand by going to 5 lanes, to the very concerns that those folks identified, I think this is a really good way of showing what it is. Just because there's an arterial every mile doesn't mean we need to expand it to 5 lanes, which will, of course, induce demand and create congestion. There's going to be congestion. They want less congestion, and sadly, nothing we can do will prevent that because of the movement of cars. But the choices drivers will make, if they're given a 5 lane, there'll be more of them that will use it. And so that's, I think, this map is really helpful to illustrate. And Commissioner Goldberger and I sort of overlap just a little over by Cole Road. There's the South Cole neighborhood. And then the rest is represented by the Southwest Boise neighborhood. The other is, of course, that we've got 2 cities and outside of the cities, the county, and 2 school districts in this. So the livability of those neighborhoods is challenged because they got different general purpose governments to go to. So that's why I'm just going to keep fighting for protecting the livability of that neighborhood on Maple Grove and 5 Mile, because they have, and you can kind of see by the area of responses, the concerns on, there's coal on one side and Cloverdale on the other, and just punching through a big old 5-laner in the middle of that neighborhood, either on Maple Grove or 5 Mile, just is going to have some pretty serious consequences to the livability of that neighborhood. So thanks, Cody. I think this really puts it into, even though we weren't asking about livability and all the contexts, there's mobility can't be separated from livability, but we do at least see that people would like, by the way they respond, to their neighborhood to be more livable. And that's what I think we can strive to do.
Next, I have what I think was the most impactful question we asked, was how have the following factors changed since you have lived in the area, since you first experienced the area, And just to give context real quick, about 80% of respondents let us know they have lived in the area for at least 3 years, and 45% for more than 10 years. And you can see traffic congestion, commute times, and basically across the board, things are getting worse or much worse. I see improvement. Comfort of walking was kind of the only kind of topic that stayed the same. But yeah, so definitely need for change out in the area. So next steps for the Maple Grove project, we plan to have 3 online virtual stakeholder meetings before the first public involvement meeting. Those with the HOAs, maybe a couple business owners. Then we would like to bring the draft PIM exhibits to the commission for approval and comment, hopefully in January. Then we'll have the first PIM to present the 3 and 5 lane alternatives early next year, calendar year. Commission then would select the alternative after that PIM based on public comment and staff recommendation. And then online PIM 2 would show that chosen alternative and what we want to bring forward.
That was my next question. Thanks for addressing it.
And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Anybody?
Excellent. Can you make sure we all get a copy of this presentation?
Oh, yeah.
Send it out?
That would be great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great job.
Now, is there any way this can be placed in a JPEG format?
It's attached to the work session.
Okay, way cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right. We're concluded with our work sessions. We have an executive session and we'll retire this to the pre-commission room, but Director Wong has something to say first.
Mr. President, Commissioners, my apology. Appears we may have had a communications issue with our lobbyists. They are now intending to see you next week. They're sort of what I want to call lost in combat at this point in time. So my apologies to all of you, and we will have that rescheduled.
Well, then I have one comment to make. You have a little present each one of us in front of you. It has to
Thank
do
you.
with the composition and contact information of every single current legislator from every single district as currently configured. I was going to make some assignments today as far as contacting legislators about our legislative agenda coming up. And I spent a whole lot of time building some CSV files with all this information in it. I sent it to myself here at the agency and didn't like the result. And so in a conversation with the director and Stacy yesterday, when I was bemoaning that fact, Stacy said, "I've got all of these."
Yeah.
And I know we'd seen these before, but
You can go in and get them every year, Dave.
yeah. So anyway, this is going to be your contact guide. And I would, if you would like to begin talking with legislators, feel free to start with the ones in your home district. And next week, we'll be talking more about some further assignments.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It just seems a little confusing to me because we haven't really talked about our policy priorities or anything like that, so it feels a little premature to, of course, establishing relationships is always a great idea, but I would rather reach out to them once we have a good understanding
Okay,
of
well,
what
we're
we
going to talk
want.
about it in much more detail next week.
Thank you.
One thing in reaching out is to say, trust us with a little more flexibility, because by narrowing the choices we have, it's so much harder. You know, even examples of those little neighborhoods where, oh, look, the law has changed since your last agreement as to what makes that neighborhood livable. So to the extent we understand, trust us to work through a process with the kind of tools that other cities around the country have.
We're going to be dealing with
We need to
not
have
just
that.
our folks in Ada County, but statewide.
Yeah.
And so
But
it's
they
going to
need
be
to
a
advocate
much,
for us, our Ada
much
County legislators.
greater challenge because of that fact.
Well, Mr. President, if I could,
Discussion, I'm sorry, Director Wong, when we have that discussion next week, when our lobbyists are here, to, like Commissioner Pickering was saying, just to have a better understanding and grasp of what we're doing and delineation of who's doing what. So by pulling us in more, in a more active role, what exactly would the lobbyists' responsibilities be? Because this is kind of a shift, because I know we all have our own relationships and we
We're going
are
to be
constantly.
making assignments for more than just the five of us.
No, but I'm just saying, so, you know, we're already engaged that way, so it's a new structure for us, so I just want to make sure that we hear all that next week.
And either Steve or Scott, depending on if Steve's back, will daylight our objectives and we'll discuss them further and perhaps go so far as to script.
Yeah, because we'll just be hearing them then
Saying-
next week for the first time, so, yeah, and if we can maybe get that list beforehand, that might be helpful too.
you'll have that, your initial thoughts, you'll have that this afternoon.
Awesome. Yeah, I was looking right at you. I knew that
I
you
know.
would say that. Thank
Then,
you.
Mr. President, final comment again, as tradition is here, the birthday person cuts the cake.
I will defer and allow anybody who wants to have a piece of cake to cut the cake and help themselves. Dive in. It's terrible having a birthday 5 days after Halloween. You have been hitting on sugar.
Commissioner Goldfarb, share with your family.
So that obviates our executive session, is that correct? Okay, all right.
Goodbye.